You feel it every morning, the suffocating weight of pretending to care about things that drain your soul. The forced smiles, the hollow conversations, the exhausting performance of being good, while your authentic self screams from beneath layers of learned helplessness. You wake up and immediately slip into the mask that society has crafted for you, a mask so perfectly fitted that you've forgotten what your real face looks like underneath. Every interaction becomes a performance, every conversation a carefully choreographed dance where you say what others want to hear, not what you actually think. The weight of this pretense grows heavier with each passing day, pressing down on your chest like a stone that threatens to crush whatever remains of your authentic spirit. You've been conditioned to believe that this exhaustion is normal, that the constant internal friction between who you are and who you pretend to be is simply the price of being civilized. But what if I told you that this isn't civilization, it's domestication? What if I told you that the very emotions you've been taught to cherish, the kindness you've been programmed to display, the empathy you've been conditioned to feel for, everyone except yourself, these aren't virtues, they're chains. Today you discover why your kindness has become your prison, and why the very emotions you've been taught to cherish are the chains that bind you to mediocrity. The truth is, you've been weaponized against yourself. Every time you choose to be understanding instead of demanding respect, every time you choose to be patient instead of setting boundaries, every time you choose to be kind instead of being strategic, you're not being noble, you're being used. Your goodness has become a tool in other people's hands, a weapon they wield against your own interests. And the most insidious part, you've been convinced that this self-sacrifice is what makes you human, what makes you worthy of love, what makes you good. But look around you. Who truly holds power in this world? It's not the kind-hearted souls sacrificing themselves for others' comfort. Society fed you a beautiful lie, that goodness is rewarded, that loyalty is sacred, that empathy is strength. You were taught that if you just care enough, give enough, sacrifice enough, the world would recognize your worth and reward your virtue. But where has this philosophy led you? To a life of constant emotional labor for others who would never reciprocate. To relationships where you give your best and receive their worst. To a career where your dedication is taken for granted and your boundaries are seen as suggestions. You've become a servant to everyone else's comfort, while your own needs remain unmet, your own dreams remain unfulfilled, your own potential remains untapped. But look around you, who truly holds power? It's not the kind-hearted souls sacrificing themselves for others' comfort. It's not the empaths who absorb everyone's pain as their own. It's not the people-pleasers who bend themselves into impossible shapes to avoid conflict. Power belongs to those who understand that emotions are tools, not masters. Power belongs to those who know when to care and when to withdraw. Power belongs to those who have learned the most dangerous lesson of all. That feeling everything is the fastest path to controlling nothing. You've been conditioned to believe that feeling deeply makes you human, when in reality, it makes you controllable. Every tear you shed for others' approval is a vote cast for your own subjugation. Every moment you spend absorbing someone else's emotional chaos is a moment stolen from your own growth. Every time you allow guilt to override your judgment, every time you let empathy cloud your vision, every time you choose harmony over truth, you're not being human, you're being domesticated. You've become a slave to feelings that serve everyone's agenda but your own. The weight of your mask isn't just exhaustion, it's the accumulated burden of a life lived in service to others' expectations rather than your own authentic power. And, today, that weight finally becomes too much to bear. 5 centuries ago, Niccolo Machiavelli whispered a truth so dangerous that it's still censored today. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But understand what he truly meant. Not that you should become a tyrant, but that you should stop being a victim. He understood what you're beginning to realize, that emotional detachment isn't cruelty, it's clarity. When you stop feeling everything, you start seeing everything. The prince who governs his emotions governs his kingdom, and you are the prince of your own existence. Machiavelli wasn't advocating for heartlessness, he was advocating for strategic thinking. He saw that the leaders who tried to be loved by everyone ended up being respected by no one. He observed that those who made decisions based on emotion rather than logic were quickly consumed by stronger, more calculating minds. He recognized that in a world where others would exploit your kindness, your only defense was to become unpredictable, strategic, and emotionally self-sufficient. This isn't about becoming cold or cruel. This is about recognizing that your emotions, when uncontrolled, become weapons that others can use against you. Every time you react emotionally, you hand someone else the keys to your behavior. Every time you let anger drive your decisions, you become predictable. Every time you let guilt override your judgment, you become manipulable. Every time you let fear keep you small, you become forgettable. The truth Machiavelli understood is that respect and love operate on different frequencies. Love is often conditional, temporary, and based on what you can provide for others. Respect, however, is earned through consistency, boundaries, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing your own worth. When you stop seeking love and start commanding respect, when you stop being available to everyone and start being valuable to yourself, the entire dynamic shifts. You begin to understand that emotional detachment isn't the absence of feeling, it's the mastery of feeling. It's the difference between being a ship tossed by every wave and being the lighthouse that guides others through the storm. When you detach from the need to be understood, you become mysterious. When you detach from the need to be liked, you become intriguing. When you detach from the need to be needed, you become powerful. Machiavelli knew that the most dangerous person in any room is the one who needs nothing from anyone else, not because they're heartless, but because they're self-sufficient. They can't be bought, manipulated, or controlled through emotional leverage. They make decisions based on logic, strategy, and long-term thinking, rather than immediate emotional gratification or the desperate need for approval. Your emotions aren't authentic expressions of your soul. They're programmed responses designed to keep you compliant. Every time you feel guilt for setting boundaries, every moment you experience anxiety about others' opinions, every instance you choose harmony over truth, you're not being human, you're being domesticated. You've become a slave to feelings that serve everyone's agenda but your own. Think about it. Who taught you that guilt was an appropriate response to taking care of yourself? Who convinced you that anxiety about others' opinions should dictate your decisions? Who programmed you to believe that avoiding conflict was more important than standing up for your truth? These aren't natural human responses, they're learned behaviors that benefit everyone except you. Your guilt serves others by keeping you compliant. Your anxiety serves others by keeping you small. Your need for approval serves others by keeping you controllable. Every emotion that causes you to sacrifice your own well-being for others' comfort is not a virtue. It's a vulnerability that's been weaponized against you. The most insidious part is that you've been convinced this emotional reactivity is what makes you good, what makes you worthy of love, what makes you human. But look at the people who truly command respect in this world. Do they lose sleep over others' opinions? Do they compromise their vision to avoid conflict? Do they sacrifice their boundaries to maintain false harmony? Of course not. They understand that emotions are tools to be used strategically, not hurricanes to be weathered helplessly. You've been taught that suppressing emotions is unhealthy, that authenticity means expressing every feeling, that emotional intelligence means being constantly available to others' emotional needs. But what if authenticity actually means being true to your highest self, not your most reactive self? What if emotional intelligence means knowing when to engage and when to withdraw, when to care and when to protect your peace? Your authentic self isn't the person who absorbs everyone's pain, who says yes to every request, who sacrifices their dreams for others' comfort. Your authentic self is the person who sets boundaries without guilt, who pursues their vision without apology, who chooses their battles strategically rather than reacting to every provocation. The emotions you've been taught to cherish, unlimited, empathy, unconditional kindness, endless patience, these aren't virtues when they're given freely to everyone. They're resources that should be invested strategically in people and situations that deserve them. When you give your emotional energy to everyone, you have nothing left for yourself. When you save it for what truly matters, you become a force to be reckoned with. You've become a slave to feelings that were never meant to control you. And until you break free from this emotional slavery, you'll remain trapped in a life that serves everyone's interests but your own. While others hemorrhage their thoughts and feelings like open wounds, and you begin to understand the terrifying power of silence. When you stop explaining yourself, stop justifying your decisions, stop filling every uncomfortable pause with desperate words, you become unpredictable. Unpredictability breeds respect. Respect breeds power. Power breeds freedom. Your silence becomes a weapon that cuts deeper than any emotional outburst ever could. In a world addicted to constant communication, constant explanation, constant emotional exhibition, your silence becomes revolutionary. When everyone else is competing for attention through volume, you command attention through absence. When others are desperately trying to be heard, you force them to listen by choosing your words carefully and sparingly. Silence isn't empty, it's full of potential. Every word you don't speak is a word they can't use against you. Every emotion you don't display is an emotion they can't manipulate. Every reaction you don't give is a reaction they can't predict. In your silence, you become a mystery, and mysteries are infinitely more intriguing than open books. The power of silence operates on multiple levels. First, it forces others to project their own insecurities onto your quietness. When you don't immediately respond to provocation, when you don't rush to fill awkward silences, when you don't explain your every decision, people begin to wonder what you're thinking. This wondering gives you power because it makes you the subject of their mental energy rather than the object of their casual dismissal. Second, silence gives you time to think strategically rather than react emotionally. When you're not constantly talking, you're constantly observing. You see the patterns in people's behavior, the inconsistencies in their words, the motivations behind their actions. While they're busy performing for your attention, you're busy studying their performance. Third, silence makes your words more valuable. When you speak rarely, people listen more carefully. When you speak strategically, people remember what you've said. When you speak with purpose, people respect your opinion. Your voice becomes a scarce resource, and scarcity always increases value. But perhaps most importantly, silence protects your energy. Every unnecessary explanation drains your power. Every defensive reaction diminishes your authority. Every desperate attempt to be understood weakens your position. When you stop wasting energy on words that won't change minds, you have more energy for actions that change circumstances. Your silence becomes a weapon that cuts deeper than any emotional outburst ever could, because it forces others to confront their own noise, their own desperation, their own need for constant validation. In your quiet confidence, they see their own insecurity reflected back at them. You've been dying a slow death through performative loyalty, giving your best to those who give you their worst, defending those who would abandon you, sacrificing your dreams for others' comfort. This isn't love, it's suicide by kindness. True loyalty isn't blind devotion, it's strategic alliance. When you stop feeling obligated to save everyone, you start having the energy to save yourself. Look at your relationships honestly. How many of them are built on mutual respect and reciprocal value? How many are built on your endless giving and their endless taking? How many people in your life would fight for you the way you fight for them? How many would sacrifice for you the way you sacrifice for them? The answers to these questions reveal the true nature of your so-called loyalty. Performative loyalty is the most exhausting form of self-betrayal. It's the practice of giving your time, energy, and resources to people who wouldn't hesitate to withdraw theirs from you. It's the belief that your worth is determined by how much you can endure, how much you can give, how much you can sacrifice for others' comfort. But this isn't loyalty. It's a transaction where you're always paying and never receiving. True loyalty is earned through consistent action, mutual respect, and reciprocal value. It's not something you owe everyone simply because they exist in your life. It's something you choose to give to people who have proven themselves worthy of it through their actions, not their words. It's something that flows both ways, creating strength rather than drainage. The people who truly deserve your loyalty are those who would never ask you to compromise your well-being for their comfort. They're the ones who support your growth, respect your boundaries, and celebrate your success without jealousy or competition. They're the ones who show up for you without being asked, who defend you in your absence, who invest in your dreams, as much as their own. But how many people in your life actually meet these criteria? How many of your relationships are built on this foundation of mutual respect and reciprocal value? The truth is, most of your so-called loyalty is being wasted on people who see your dedication as weakness, your sacrifice as stupidity, your kindness as something they're entitled to rather than something they should be grateful for. When you stop feeling obligated to save everyone, you start having the energy to save yourself. When you stop being loyal to people who are disloyal to you, you start being loyal to your own growth, your own dreams, your own well-being. When you stop sacrificing your future for others' comfort, you start building the life you actually want to live. This isn't about becoming selfish, it's about becoming strategic. It's about recognizing that your loyalty is a valuable resource that should be invested in people and causes that deserve it, not scattered randomly to anyone who demands it. It's about understanding that you can't pour from an empty cup and that constantly giving without receiving is a guaranteed path to emptiness. The death of performative loyalty is the birth of authentic relationships. When you stop being available to everyone, you become valuable to the right people. When you stop giving your best to those who give you their worst, you create space for those who are worthy of your excellence. Every interaction is a chess game, and you've been playing checkers with your heart on your sleeve. People don't respond to your goodness. They respond to your value, your scarcity, your ability to improve or threaten their position. When you stop trying to be loved and start becoming necessary, when you stop being available and start being strategic, the entire game changes. You transform from a pawn to a player. The harsh reality is that most people are not thinking about your feelings, your needs, or your well-being when they interact with you. They're thinking about what you can do for them, how you can solve their problems, how you can make their lives easier. This isn't malicious, it's human nature. People are primarily concerned with their own survival, their own success, their own comfort. Understanding this changes everything. When you realize that people are evaluating you based on your utility rather than your niceness, you start focusing on becoming useful rather than likable. When you understand that respect is earned through competence rather than compliance, you start developing skills rather than people-pleasing habits. The mathematics of human interaction are simple. People invest in what benefits them and withdraw from what doesn't. Your kindness, while admirable, doesn't automatically benefit others in ways that create lasting respect or genuine loyalty. Your availability, while generous, doesn't create scarcity or value. Your willingness to sacrifice, while noble, doesn't inspire others to reciprocate, but your expertise benefits them. Your unique perspective benefits them. Your ability to solve problems benefits them. Your strategic thinking benefits them. Your emotional stability benefits them. When you focus on developing these qualities rather than being universally likable, you become someone people need rather than someone they tolerate. Scarcity creates value in every market, including the market of human relationships. When you're always available, always agreeable, always accommodating, you become a commodity. When you're selective with your time, strategic with your energy, and particular about your associations, you become a rare resource. The game changes. When you stop being a pawn moved by others' strategies and start being a player with your own agenda. Pawns are sacrificed for the greater good. Players make sacrifices to advance their position. Pawns react to others' moves. Players anticipate and create opportunities. This transformation requires you to think several moves ahead, to consider not just the immediate consequences of your actions, but their long-term implications. It requires you to evaluate relationships, not just based on how they feel, but on how they function. It requires you to make decisions based on strategy rather than emotion. When you start playing chess instead of checkers, you realize that every interaction is an opportunity to either advance your position or maintain it. Every conversation is a chance to either demonstrate your value or diminish it. Every decision is a choice between short-term comfort and long-term power. Emotional detachment isn't numbness, it's clarity. It's the difference between being a ship tossed by every wave and being the lighthouse that guides others through the storm. When you stop absorbing others' emotions, stop taking their words personally, stop allowing their chaos to disturb your peace, you become immovable. Immovable objects command respect in a world of emotional turbulence. The world is full of people who are emotionally reactive, who allow their feelings to dictate their decisions, who are thrown off course by every criticism, every conflict, every challenge. In this sea of emotional instability, your detachment becomes a beacon of strength. Your calm becomes a source of security for others. Your stability becomes a foundation others can build upon. But emotional detachment doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you're not controlled by your feelings. It means you can experience anger without being consumed by it. It means you can feel disappointment without being derailed by it. It means you can encounter criticism without being crushed by it. Your emotions become information rather than instruction, data rather than dictation. When you stop absorbing others' emotions, you stop being a victim of their mood swings. When you stop taking their words personally, you stop being wounded by their opinions. When you stop allowing their chaos to disturb your peace, you stop being a casualty of their internal wars. You become a neutral observer rather than a participant in their drama. This doesn't make you cold or heartless. It makes you wise. It allows you to respond to situations based on logic and strategy rather than impulse and emotion. It allows you to maintain your center regardless of the storms raging around you. It allows you to be a source of strength for others rather than another person who needs to be managed and consoled. Immovable objects command respect in a world of emotional turbulence because they represent stability, reliability, and strength. When others are falling apart, you remain composed. When others are reacting emotionally, you respond strategically. When others are being tossed around by circumstances, you remain grounded in your principles and your purpose. This emotional fortress doesn't isolate you from the world, it protects you from being consumed by it. It allows you to engage with others from a position of strength rather than neediness. It allows you to give from abundance rather than emptiness. It allows you to love from choice rather than compulsion. The lighthouse doesn't chase ships. It stands firm and guides them. The mountain doesn't bend to the wind. It stands tall and weathers the storm. When you become emotionally immovable, you become a reference point for others, a source of stability in their chaos, a beacon of strength in their weakness. You are not responsible for managing others' emotions, for making them comfortable with your growth, for shrinking yourself to fit their limitations. Your only responsibility is to yourself, to your vision, your boundaries, your relentless pursuit of becoming who you're meant to be. When you stop seeking external validation and start cultivating internal sovereignty, you become dangerous to those who profit from your weakness. The moment you truly understand this, everything changes. You realize that you've been carrying responsibilities that were never yours to bear. You've been managing emotions that belong to other people. You've been sacrificing your growth to accommodate others' comfort zones. You've been shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were too small for your potential. But your only real responsibility is to yourself, to your vision, your values, your growth, your well-being. You are responsible for setting boundaries and enforcing them. You are responsible for pursuing your dreams and not letting others discourage you. You are responsible for becoming the person you're meant to be, regardless of who feels threatened by your transformation. When you stop seeking external validation, you stop being controlled by others' opinions. When you stop needing their approval, you stop being limited by their expectations. When you stop caring about their comfort, you stop being constrained by their limitations. You become internally sovereign, the ultimate authority over your own life. This sovereignty is dangerous to those who have profited from your weakness, who have benefited from your people-pleasing, who have relied on your inability to set boundaries. Your growth threatens their comfort. Your strength threatens their control. Your independence threatens their dependence on you. But their discomfort with your growth is not your problem to solve. Their inability to handle your success is not your responsibility to manage. Their fear of your potential is not your limitation to accept. You are not obligated to remain small so others can feel big. You are not required to stay weak so others can feel strong. Internal sovereignty means you become the final authority on your own life. You decide what you will and won't accept. You determine what is and isn't worth your time. You choose who deserves your energy and who doesn't. You set the standards for how you will and won't be treated. This doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you self-possessed. It doesn't make you selfish. It makes you strategic. It doesn't make you cruel. It makes you clear. When you know your worth, you don't need others to validate it. When you trust your judgment, you don't need others to approve it. When you own your power, you don't need others to give it to you. The people who are uncomfortable with your sovereignty are the same people who are comfortable with your servitude. The people who accuse you of changing are the same people who benefited from your stagnation. The people who call you selfish are the same people who were selfish with your time, energy, and resources. Your sovereignty is not up for negotiation, not subject to committee approval, not dependent on others. Comfort, it's your birthright, your natural state, your ultimate destination. Fear and respect are not opposites. They're partners in the dance of true leadership. When people know you cannot be manipulated, cannot be guilted, cannot be emotionally coerced, they stop trying to control you and start respecting your boundaries. You don't need to be cruel. You need to be consistent. Consistency in your standards, your boundaries, your refusal to compromise your sovereignty for their comfort. The fear others feel toward you is not the fear of violence or cruelty. It's the fear of consequences. It's the fear that their manipulation won't work on you. It's the fear that their emotional games won't move you. It's the fear that their attempts to control you will fail. This fear is actually respect in disguise. Respect for your strength, your boundaries, your unwillingness to be pushed around. True leadership isn't about being liked by everyone. It's about being respected by everyone. Leaders who try to be loved by all end up being respected by none. Leaders who are willing to be disliked for doing what's right end up being remembered for their integrity. Leaders who prioritize truth over harmony end up creating real change. rather than temporary peace. When you become consistent in your standards, people stop testing your boundaries. When you become predictable in your refusal to be manipulated, people stop trying to manipulate you. When you become unwavering in your commitment to your own well-being, people start respecting your strength. Consistency is the foundation of respect. When your yes means yes and your no means no, people know where they stand with you. When your boundaries are clear and non-negotiable, people stop trying to cross them. When your standards are high and unchanging, people either rise to meet them or remove themselves from your life. This doesn't require you to be harsh or cruel. It requires you to be clear and consistent. It requires you to mean what you say and say what you mean. It requires you to follow through on your commitments and your consequences. It requires you to be the same person in private as you are in public. The respect you command through consistency is deeper and more lasting than the temporary approval you might gain through people-pleasing. People might like you for telling them what they want to hear, but they respect you for telling them what they need to hear. They might appreciate your flexibility when it benefits them, but they respect your firmness when it demonstrates your strength. Your refusal to compromise your sovereignty for others' comfort is not selfishness, it's self-respect. It's the recognition that your well-being is not negotiable, that your boundaries are not suggestions, that your standards are not flexible based on others' preferences. This consistency creates a powerful dynamic where people know exactly what to expect from you. They know you won't be swayed by guilt, moved by manipulation, or coerced by emotional blackmail. They know that earning your respect requires meeting your standards, not lowering them. They know that maintaining a relationship with you requires reciprocity, not just taking. Fear and respect dance together because both recognize power. Fear recognizes the power to enforce consequences. Respect recognizes the power to maintain standards. Both acknowledge that you are not someone to be trifled with, not someone to be taken for granted, not someone to be taken advantage of. You stand at the threshold of a fundamental transformation. Behind you lies the warm, comfortable prison of emotional reactivity, the familiar pain of caring too much, giving too freely, hoping too desperately. Ahead lies the cold, liberating kingdom of emotional mastery, where you feel nothing unnecessary and master everything essential. This isn't about becoming heartless. It's about becoming strategic with your heart. You're not losing your humanity. You're reclaiming your power. This moment is sacred because it represents the death of who you were and the birth of who you're becoming. The person who entered this understanding is not the same person who will leave it. The transformation happening within you is irreversible, undeniable, and absolutely necessary for your survival in a world that preys on emotional weakness. Behind you lies a familiar landscape of emotional exhaustion. It's the world where you absorbed everyone's problems as your own, where you sacrificed your dreams for others' comfort, where you gave your best to those who gave you their worst. It's warm because it's known, comfortable because it's familiar, but ultimately a prison because it keeps you trapped in a cycle of giving without receiving, caring without being cared for, loving without being loved back. That world feels safe because it's predictable. You know exactly what's expected of you. Endless availability, unlimited empathy, constant sacrifice. You know exactly what you'll receive in return. Being taken for granted, being emotionally drained, being treated as a resource rather than a person. The pain is familiar, and familiar pain often feels safer than unknown freedom. But ahead lies something different. A kingdom where you rule rather than serve, where you choose rather than react, where you invest your emotions strategically rather than spending them carelessly. It's cold because it's unfamiliar, liberating because it offers freedom, and ultimately more humane because it honors your worth as well as others. In this new kingdom, you feel nothing unnecessary. You don't absorb others' anxiety as your own. You don't take their criticism personally. You don't allow their chaos to disturb your peace. You don't feel guilty for setting boundaries, anxious about their opinions, or responsible for their emotional well-being. You feel only what serves your highest good, what moves you toward your goals, what honors your authentic self, and you master everything essential. You master your responses rather than being mastered by your reactions. You master your energy rather than letting it be drained by others. You master your time rather than letting it be consumed by others' agendas. You master your relationships rather than being a victim of others' moods and demands. This transformation isn't about becoming heartless, it's about becoming strategic with your heart. Your heart is not a public utility that everyone has access to. It's a private resource that should be shared only with those who are worthy of it, who reciprocate it, who honor it. Being strategic with your heart means protecting it from those who would abuse it while opening it to those who deserve it. You're not losing your humanity, you're reclaiming your power. Your humanity was never dependent on your willingness to be used, abused, or taken advantage of. Your humanity lies in your capacity to love, to grow, to create, to contribute. But all of these require you to be strong, not weak. All of these require you to be strategic, not reckless. All of these require you to be sovereign, not servile. This transformation is not a loss, it's a reclamation. You're not becoming less human, you're becoming more yourself. You're not losing your ability to care. You're gaining the wisdom to care strategically. You're not abandoning your compassion. You're directing it toward those who deserve it and away from those who exploit it. The threshold you're crossing is the line between emotional slavery and emotional sovereignty, between being a victim of others' agendas and being the author of your own story, between living for others' approval and living for your own fulfillment. You have become what Machiavelli envisioned, a sovereign ruler of your own existence. You no longer seek permission to exist, approval to succeed, or validation to feel worthy. Your emotions serve you, not the other way around. Your kindness is strategic, your loyalty is earned, your respect is commanded. You feel nothing that doesn't serve your highest good, and you master everything that does. This is your kingdom, and you are its undisputed ruler. This transformation is complete. You are no longer the person who entered this journey. You are no longer the person who absorbed others' emotions as your own, who sacrificed your dreams for others' comfort, who gave your power away in exchange for temporary approval. You have become something far more powerful, a sovereign ruler of your own existence. You no longer seek permission to exist because you understand that your existence is not up for debate. You don't need others' approval to take up space, to pursue your dreams, to live authentically. Your right to exist, to thrive, to succeed is not dependent on others' comfort or approval. You exist because you choose to, and you live according to your own standards and values. You no longer seek approval to succeed because you understand that success is not a democratic process. Your achievements are not subject to popular vote. Your dreams are not dependent on others' belief in them. Your potential is not limited by others' limitations. You succeed because you're willing to do what others won't, to persist when others quit, to believe in yourself when others doubt. You no longer seek validation to feel worthy because you understand that your worth is inherent, not earned. You don't need others to confirm your value because you know your value. You don't need others to appreciate your contributions because you appreciate them. You don't need others to recognize your potential because you recognize it. Your emotions now serve you, not the other way around. You are no longer a victim of your feelings, but a master of them. You feel what you choose to feel when you choose to feel it, for as long as it serves your highest good. You are no longer controlled by guilt, anxiety, or the desperate need for approval. You are guided by wisdom, strategy, and authentic self-love. Your kindness is strategic, given to those who deserve it, appreciated, and reciprocated. Your loyalty is earned, reserved for those who have proven themselves worthy. Through consistent action, not pretty words, your respect is commanded, not through force or manipulation, but through the quiet confidence that comes from knowing your worth and refusing to accept less than you deserve. You feel nothing that doesn't serve your highest good, and you master everything that does. This is the ultimate freedom, the freedom to choose your responses, to direct your energy, to invest your time and attention in ways that honor your authentic self and advance your true goals. This is your kingdom, and you are its undisputed ruler. You set the laws, you enforce the boundaries, you determine the standards, you decide who gains access and who is denied entry. You choose what gets your attention and what gets ignored. You are the final authority on your own life, and that authority is absolute and unquestionable. In this kingdom, you are not a democracy where everyone gets a vote. You are not a committee where every opinion matters equally. You are not a public resource where everyone has access. You are a monarchy where you alone hold the crown, where your word is law, where your well-being is the highest priority. This is not arrogance, it's self-possession. This is not selfishness, it's sovereignty. This is not cruelty, it's clarity. You have become what you were always meant to be, the undisputed ruler of your own existence, the final authority on your own life, the sovereign master of your own destiny. The transformation is complete. The crown is yours. The kingdom is yours. The power is yours, and you will never give it away again.